Long-term conditions. I guess each and every one of us and each and every one of you can bring into your mind's eye somebody who you know who has one or more long-term conditions, who is looked after at home, and who has occasional visits, if not admissions, to hospital. If you multiply that person in your mind's eye by 252%, that is where we are as a system in 2050. And if that seems too far off, then if you take the existing 15 million people with long-term conditions, then by 2015, there will be a 60% increase in the number who have more than one condition. People with long-term conditions already take 70% of health and social care resources. They are responsible for around 70% of admissions. And when I say responsible, that is not it's their fault, but that actually is the driver of cost and activity in the system. In short, if we continue to manage people with long-term conditions as we do now, the NHS and social care system will not be sustainable. We cannot continue to have a position where there is almost a Monty Python-esque queue of case managers outside a single person's house because they only deal with one disease, but the person inside has 3 or 4. The vast majority of people we're going to see develop will have multiple conditions. That thinking just down disease-specific pathways is a redundant strategy for that particular future. But there are answers. There are answers, some in this country, some by looking abroad and to other places to see where they get the best outcomes for patients with long-term conditions, coupled with better experience for those patients, coupled with better use of resources for the health community as a whole, reduced unscheduled admissions, people being able to work more effectively. And when you look at those different systems, whether it be Kaiser or Giesinger in the US or Jönköping in Sweden or Tayside in Scotland or many of the examples cited in the recent King's Fund report, there are common features between those systems wherever they happen to be operating, and they are these. 1, you risk profile the whole of the population with long-term conditions. Out of that risk profiling drops a list of people, some call it a virtual ward, and that virtual ward is looked at with a virtual ward round by people who are in an integrated care team at a local level. And by an integrated care team, what we mean is people from social services, community services, practices, pulling in specialist knowledge when they need it, but looking holistically at the person with long-term conditions. Now, that's not to say that within that integrated team there won't be somebody who has a special interest in diabetes or special interest in respiratory medicine. But if they go and see Mr. Jones or Mrs. Smith, then they're looking at that person as a whole, which is also what patients want us to do. They say to us, we'd like you to treat the whole of us, and we'd like you to act as one team. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And the third element is systematically transferring knowledge to the patients themselves so we maximize the number who can help manage their own condition. Not just because it's a nice thing to do, but it actually improves the clinical outcomes as well. Patients have their disease with them 24/7 and have to manage it on their own for thousands of hours in a year. And we as professionals fiddle around with it for 8 or 9 or 10. So maximizing the number of people who can help manage their own conditions, we know now more and more with research, improves the outcomes for patients. On the long-term conditions work stream, the ignition phase, we're working with economists throughout the country who have been starting to put in place some of those things. Starting to create those integrated care teams, starting to systematize the risk profiling, starting to systematize how we engage with patients in a different way through care planning, not just as a tick box exercise, but to test out their understanding of their disease. And as an aggregate, we're already seeing some 17% reduction in unscheduled admissions, albeit in the small geographies in which they're doing it, or the particular cohort. But it is beginning to make an impact. The next phase of the work stream is to engage with GP consortia and social care in different regions of the country, so that we weave the development of commissioning in with the implementation of the care model. And this is the direction I hope we'll go in the very near future where you are. So there are answers, but it only works if we learn how to share. If we learn how to share and learn together, managers and clinicians, primary and secondary care, health and social care, working to one end in the localities where you are. And as I've said before, and I will keep on saying, if we fail, we don't fail our practices or our PCTs or our consortia or our SHAs or the government. We fail those people you brought into your mind's eye. We fail our friends, our relatives, our communities. And we cannot let that happen. Thank you very much.